Welcome to a Prevent Connect web conference introducing PreventIPV tools for social change. And I am Ashley Meyer. And oh, looks like the slides just went away, David. So I
saw that there. So I'm going to work on that, and you can keep on going.
Great. So we just want to welcome you to today's session. And yes, you can see the slides on your screen. To see the slides, please go ahead and press the tab for sharing. And I'm going to go ahead and leave David Lee's picture up, and he will be speaking shortly. So I will introduce him. David Lee with Prevent Connect has also joined us today and will be guiding us throughout the session. Hi, David. How are you?
I am doing great, other than the fun of technology. So wonderful to have people joining us for our Prevent Connect piece. And Ashley, there's a whole lot of ways that people can connect with Prevent Connect, whether it's our website, whether it's our email address, our email group, our e-learning, or our wiki, or many ways of social media. So glad to have you here. Let's run through how people can use technology, Ashley. So I'm not able to see it here, but I'm going to trust that it's there. Ashley, can have people raise their hand?
Yes. So, and David, I'm not seeing the technology slide, so if you could, there might be a delay on that, but there we go. I see it now. So everybody, on the top left side of your screen, right next to where it gives you that phone number, there's a My Status. Oh, and I see you found it. Please go ahead and press that hand button and raise your hand. And so I'm seeing the hands go up. They're very, very fast. We now have almost half. So yes, that's great. And I will go ahead and lower those hands. So that's how you can get our attention here at Prevent Connect. And I will most likely try to check in with you via private chat, which is, I'm going to clear all the hands, which is on the top right side of your screen. And so you'll see right now you're likely in the public chat, which is where you're putting in where you're from and the weather. And it's great to see everybody's from all over and having vastly different weather in different parts of the country. And next to that is a tab that says private. So if you click on that tab, you can choose who you want to talk to. And if I am sending you a message, it'll come up with a little exclamation point, and you'll see Ashley ... It'll be me sending a message, checking in with you, see how I can help. So we do encourage that you use the text chat. We will be trying our best to answer your questions. And this is being recorded, and the text chat is going to be posted. So I do suggest, if you're doing something like sharing your email address and you don't want everybody to see it, to go ahead and do that in a private chat with whoever you're trying to share it with. The slides, again, are on the tab that says sharing, and in parentheses, David Lee. We will be might be asking some polling questions here in a second. And we encourage you to call in on the phone if you're having any audio issues, and I'll go ahead and type that into the text chat. Closed captioning is available. Please, you will have to see the C box at the top. And we ask that you adhere to just generally accepted web conference guidelines. We have a lot of things to share, so please do so respectfully with each other, and we usually don't have any problem with that, but just wanted to go ahead and make that known. And also, if you are having any issues, please call iLink Technical Support at 800-799-4510. Prevent Connect is a national project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, sponsored by U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The views and information provided in this web conference do not necessarily represent the official views of the U.S. government, CDC, or CalCASA. How's that, David?
That was great. So I have one more question that I'm going to ask, and if you can actually set up the feedback box for A, B, C, or D. We want to get a sense of people in the audience. How long have you been doing prevention work? And I have to thank Lorian Gastile for coming up with these examples of the answers. So A, if you were less than 1 year, you've been doing prevention work. B, if 1 to 2 years. C, 2 to 5. And if it's 5 years, we're going to call that forever. I know it's not quite forever, but let's see what people have. So what are people, and go ahead and in the feedback on the left-hand side, don't need to type it in. You can go over and put it in there, and we'll get to see a little chart. And Ashley, are you sharing the chart? I can't see it, but maybe you can.
I am going to share it now. So yes, please go ahead and put that into the feedback box on the left, and you should be seeing the answers now. It's a pretty even. Oh, excuse me, that was my dog. It's a pretty even mix, and And it looks like we have 38% who are D, so forever. Sorry about that. There's a little pug in the background. He's not happy that her daddy left her. And then we have a good mix for the rest of them, David.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. So now I want to just let people know that Prevent Connect has a wide variety of web conferences that we've been doing this year, and today is just one of the whole series that we've been doing. Our theme this year has been joining our fellow travelers, practical applications for expanding the impact of sexual and domestic violence prevention efforts. And so I want to just let people know to be able to join us. We have one coming up later on Thursday called All Communities Are Not Created Equal, Advancing Health Equity Goals to Enhance Sexual and Domestic Violence Prevention Efforts. We're doing it with our colleagues from Prevention Institute. There's a few spaces available, so I encourage you to do that. So go ahead. Ashley, can you be able to pose the questions? I'm wondering, maybe I actually wanted to... For the, I'm going to actually stop the share for a moment so I can ask a few questions more of the audience so we can get a little bit of sense of what types of organizations people are with. And there. Mm-hmm. Now I can ask the question. Now, on your screen, you should see, have you attended a web conference before today? So let's get a sense from you. And go ahead and vote on the screen. You should be seeing it on your main screen. A, this is the first web conference you've ever attended. B, you've attended a web conference before, but the first time on a Prevent Connect web conference. C, as I've attended 1 to 2 previous web conferences. And D, as you've attended 3 or more Prevent Connect web conferences. And I will share the results with everyone, because what you can see is that almost 40% of us have attended 3 or more of the web conferences, so people that are regulars on Prevent Connect. That another 15% have gone to previous ones, but yet we have another 15% of you that is the first time joining us on Prevent Connect, and we're glad to be able to have you all joining us and being able to share in what we're doing. So I'm going to withdraw that question, and now I'm going to ask the next question with a long list of answers. What best describes your organization? Are you with a sexual violence agency or coalition, a domestic violence agency or coalition, or a dual sexual assault domestic violence agency? Are you with education, college, university, or the health department, or other fed government offices, or tribal, or education K through 12? And you can see a long list. And let me share the results. Ashley, look at this. Oh, so we've got... looks like 26% are from dual domestic violence sexual assault agencies, and another 16% from domestic violence agencies. We have 12% from sexual assault. We've got 7% from education, 3% from health departments. We have a lot of people from community-based organizations. I recognize many of the names, and a few of you that are writing from, many of you are from national resource centers. I actually recognize many of the names of you there. So I'm going to go ahead and close that slide for everyone and get back to the share so I can get where we are going here. So this is, and Ashley, can you see that on the screen now?
Absolutely. I see our 2014 web conferences.
Perfect. So now we want to just, Prevent Connect does talk about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and sexual violence. Today we're going to focus on domestic violence and intimate partner violence, but we do look at violence across the lifespan and all forms of violence. We want to prevent before violence starts in the first place, and Prevent Connect is also about making connections. Connect with other forms of violence and oppression, connect to other prevention practitioners. That is the work that we are trying to do. So with that, I am really glad to be able to get today's session introducing PreventIPV, Tools for Social Change. I'm very excited about this session. We have some great wide range of speakers with us today. So we have, I'm going to go through and introduce all of you. So we have from the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Deb DeBear. Hi, Deb.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm doing great, and you're going to be talking about the IPV Prevention Council. So I'm really glad to have you speaking with us today, Deb.
Great. I'm glad to be here.
Great. We also are joined by 2 people from the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. Casey Keene, who has been with Prevent Connect web conferences from the very beginning, 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. Hi, Casey.
Hi, David. That's right. We're longtime friends. I'm glad to be on today.
Right. Casey's one of the people I actually not just see online, but occasionally see on person. And we're also joined by your colleague over at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, Annika Gifford. Hi, Annika.
Hi, David. Hi, everyone.
Great. I'm so glad to have you. I'm really looking forward to what you're going to be talking about today. I'm on the DV Evidence Project. It's very exciting.
Thanks,
we
David.
also have Lorian Castell, and she is with the New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Hi, Lorian.
Hi, David.
Wonderful, wonderful to have you. Another person who I've had the opportunity of being in many meetings with over the years, and really glad to get to work on this project. And today we're going to be featuring two programs, local programs, that are really, I think, going to be exciting for people. So we have from the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center, Steph Trilling. Hi, Steph.
Hi, David.
Great to have you joining us over in Boston. And we have from up in Canada, we have Shauna Burns. Hi, Shauna.
Hi there.
Hi there, and you're joined with your colleague, Katie Brooks.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, and let's see if I can get this right. The CAMH Center for Prevention Science, is that right?
That's right.
I got it right, and they're going to be talking about 4th-R, and so, and while Steph's going to be talking about the Be Safe program, and we're really looking forward to hearing about that work later. So I'm glad to have all of you here. It's a lot of people. You can see we have people from all around the country and the world joining us in our conversation. Today what we're going to do is, with these learning objectives, so you can be able to describe the goals, function, and activities of PreventIPV, describe the utility of the Tools for Change website that will be showing, describe how the National Resource Center's Domestic Violence Evidence Project complements PreventIPV, and then we're looking for you to be able to identify some of the key elements of two innovative prevention programs, Be Safe and the 4th-R. And so it's ambitious, but I think we are in great shape. So with this, I'm going to hand the podium over to Deb. Deb, you're going to have to do since technology is this way, the famous next, and I will advance the slides for you, Deb.
Okay, that sounds great.
Deb is for the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Great. Well, I'm really happy to be here. I'm here in my capacity representing the IPV Prevention Council. And so Rhode Island may be one of the smaller states in the country. We are really happy and proud to be one of the coalitions that's represented on this new national entity. So just briefly, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what the IPV Prevention Council is. We were formed in 2011, primarily as an idea that came out of many conversations on the national level from domestic violence coalitions about how we really needed to create a way where local programs and statewide programs that are working on prevention could create a network to help move our national movement forward. So, it's a vision statement, very simple. It's up there on the screen. It's about creating a wide network, helping us to sustain the primary prevention efforts that lead to the social change necessary to end IPV. Next.
Oh, I'm sorry. There.
That's okay. So, one of the things about the IPV Prevention Council is that it's not like another national organization. We're really there just to help make the work more effective on a local level, on a statewide level, and create a network of collaborative work so that we can really create a national vision and have a unified national voice for prevention. So when any of the national funders or policymakers are talking about prevention, it gives us a platform and a way of having a conversation and being at the table. So, we're trying to proactively be at the table and engage our federal partners. We've developed a structure, and we're not going to go into the details here today because of time, but I wanted to just point out that there are 4 coalition directors that are listed up there on the screen. You can see from different parts of the country, including both dual coalitions and domestic violence single coalitions. Gloria, Janelle, myself, and Christy are there, and any ideas or suggestions that any of you have about how to get involved or what the council can do to help your work locally, we're really open to hearing it. So I'm excited to hear what all the other presenters are going to talk about. I just wanted to make sure everyone on the call was aware that we have this exciting new council, and we're looking forward to working with everyone in the future.
Well, thank you, Deb, and I really appreciate the leadership that the Council is bringing towards advancing the primary prevention of intimate partner violence. And
it's a very exciting time to be doing this work, not just locally and statewide, but on a national level too. So it's really an honor to be able to do that.
Great, and I tremendous respect and thank you for bringing together and being the catalyst for this to happen. So with this, we're going to bring Casey Keene from the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. Hey, Casey.
Hi, David.
So the first thing we want to do is going to give you the podium, and actually, Ashley, if we're going to pose the question about the PreventIPV.org, how many people here have looked at PreventIPV.org? So go ahead, and Ashley, have you put up the yes or no piece?
Yes, David. I have a yes or no poll on the left bottom side of your screen, so go ahead and click the answer there. Lots of people are filling that out, and I'm going to go ahead and share that in real time. Looks like it is sharing. And it looks like we have about, right now it's holding at 58% no, 41% yes.
Oh, well, you are in for a treat. So, Casey, I have to say, when we first saw Prevent Connect, when we first saw PreventIPV.org, we were having website envy. We really love the way this looks, and the content is really useful. So, Casey, why don't you share a little bit about what is on this website so people can learn more?
Thank you, David. Yeah, we're really excited here at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence to support the work of the IPV Prevention Council. And under their leadership, we've developed this new website, which we think is an excellent new resource for the field. And thanks for your feedback, David. It makes me feel good to know that Prevent Connect, who we look to as a leader in online technology, has a little envy. That feels good. But to those of you who haven't had a chance to log on yet, I hope you will. And I can see that David is putting up the link. It's actually PreventIPV.
I caught that.
So feel free to click there and explore as I talk if you haven't had a chance to take a look yet. So one of the major goals of the PreventIPV website is to provide an online space where prevention resources, strategies, and lessons learned can be shared among community, territory, and state-level activists. So as Deb said, we think such a space can really foster a strong, unified national voice for prevention. You can move to the next slide, David.
Okay.
So there's some great resources available through the website, including our vision section, which provides some core prevention material. And the resources in the vision section really review prevention theories and frameworks and offer materials for building prevention capacity, and that's both organizationally and individually. There's also a news blog on the site which offers prevention-related updates in the field, and that includes events, campaigns, publications, and even news articles with broad scope or impact related to prevention work that we can use to inform our work going forward and kind of track what trends are happening in the field. So those are some of the little pieces that are available through PreventIPV. And David, you can advance. What I want to call your attention to today is the tools inventory. This is a peer-generated collection of materials that your fellow prevention activists are using in the field and have offered for your use and adaptation. So as a key project consultant, our friend and fellow presenter on today's web conference, Lorianne Castell, has been really instrumental in the development of the tools inventory and the selection of the materials offered there. We depend on all of you to submit the prevention tools that you're using, that you've developed, that work in your communities, and share them with your peers. And resources in the inventory address all levels of the social ecology. So, and David, we're seeing a chart now. There we go. David's multitasking. So we try to address all levels of the social ecology with the tools that are available in the collection, and Lorianne will talk more about that in a bit. So we have materials that impact families, individuals, organizations, communities, institutions and policies so that you can help craft or refine your own comprehensive prevention strategy. Go ahead and advance the slide for me, David. So here's a screenshot of the inventory where there's a variety of filtering options available. You can filter by the type of material, the prevention strategy you want to use, the setting you're working in. There's also advanced filter options that help you refine by ecological level, population, language, maybe age group, and also geographic region. So there's a lot of ways to kind of come up with a list of tools that are exactly the thing you're looking for. And when you click on a material, you get a full summary. And the summary includes information on the value of the material. So that may include formal evaluation data or other feedback that helps us understand what the impact of the tool has been. And that information is provided by the people who developed the material. So they're able to give us a little insight into what its value is and how it's worked in their community. We've also included guidelines for use, which offer considerations and tips for successfully adapting the resource in your community. And that includes if there's any necessary training, if there's anticipated costs, and other capacity considerations. So we hope that we've packaged these materials in such a way that you'll be able to take and use them. And go ahead and my last slide, David. So the site is not fully populated yet. With our project consultants, Debbie Tucker, who many of you know at the National Center on Domestic and Sexual Violence, and Jonathan Iglesias, who many of you may know from the Washington State Department of Health, we're working on developing 2 new sections of the website, which will be ready this fall. There's the engagement section, which will provide information about making the case for prevention. And then there's innovation, which will review lessons learned that can help inform our future efforts. So to stay in the loop and to really keep up with what's going on with the project, you can subscribe to our quarterly newsletter, and you'll be getting all the information. So thanks for letting me have the opportunity to share a little tidbit from the website.
Well, thank you so much, Casey, and I really want to encourage people to visit and learn a lot. And Casey, in some ways, how do you get the things to add to this website?
Well, our first pass was to do a request to the field. So some of you may have seen our call to the field asking for you to submit prevention resources. Lorianne's been really diligent at calling people who she knows are doing great work and asking them for their resources as well. But we're making a call here today and asking all of you, go to PreventIPV.org and you can submit your resources through the website. There's no material that's too small or too big to feature on our site, and it might include just a neat little tool that you've developed, maybe a healthy, 365 days of healthy relationships calendar, or something that you use, in the middle school, as an example. So we really hope that, people have an understanding that there's value in the materials that you've developed and you've used, and that they can be used in other communities as well.
Great. So I want to encourage people to join in and participate and help build this. And so let's move over to Lorianne Castile from the New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And you're going to talk a little bit about sort of what the content is and what you're trying to do on this website, right, Lorianne?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much. So Casey, you did such a wonderful job really describing what the goal for the tools inventory is. Really, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that people understood was that your prevention material can be submitted and promoted on this website, whether it's been evaluated or not, and to really get people to think beyond sort of this notion of being evidence-based, and to really think about sharing all of the great work that people are doing and creating this dialogue in this community of practice that is national. David, you've got a slide for me next. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was that we are really recruiting from all of you programs that are really designed to stop the violence from happening in the first place. And using this notion of primary prevention, this definition that it's a systematic process, right, that promotes healthy environments. So we're about changing conditions in the environment and promoting behaviors that reduce the likelihood or frequency of violence occurring in the first place. So really asking people to think about what you're doing that is stopping the violence before it happens. Next slide, thank you. And we do have some prevention science that is helping us to create criteria for what gets included in the toolkit, although, as Casey said, no prevention activity is too small or too great. We are certainly thinking about prevention occurring on this continuum, and we understand that people are not only doing primary prevention strategies, but they're also creating these comprehensive programs that also include secondary and tertiary strategies as well. So if you have something that you'd like to promote, but it hangs together with strategies that are not primary prevention, again, we want you to think about submitting that, having a conversation with us, and figuring out how to promote your comprehensive strategy that occurs anywhere on this continuum. Next slide, please, David. So the social ecology is certainly one of the tools from the prevention science that we are using as criteria. Of course, as you see here, it's a tool that helps us understand the levels and the factors that influence behaviors. It's sometimes shown as a nested model or a wheel, as we've shown you here, to represent really the complex interplay between levels, the individual level, relationship level, or societal factors that put people at risk for perpetrating violence or put people at risk for experiencing violence. We know that effective primary prevention strategies will include a range or a continuum of activities that land on each of these levels, that they're conducted across the lifespan that address these multiple levels, right? So simply the notion that any activity we conduct to change the behavior of people will be more effective if, say for instance, we're addressing youth and wanting to promote healthy behaviors among youth. We know that we'll be more effective if we also engage the influencers in the lives of the youth that we're talking with. So parents or teachers or coaches, if we're engaging them as well as youth and we're helping them to enhance and enforce behaviors and modeling behaviors, then we're going to be more effective. Next slide, please. And then one more little piece that we want to talk about in terms of prevention science is another visual tool here to understand how prevention is more than activities happening in a school or a setting where young people congregate, but rather is a range of activities that go beyond promoting healthy relationship behaviors and engage on all of these levels that you see here in this pretty rainbow that is the spectrum of prevention designed by our friends at the Prevention Institute. So as you can see, there are 6 levels, and the theory behind it is that when used in a complementary fashion, it can also create more momentum. The word that the Prevention Institute uses is synergy. I love that word. And we can create synergy and more momentum if we are engaging in prevention activities at each of these levels that build on and complement other strategies. Thank you, David.
So there's a question that came up about, and this will be for you, Lauren, or for you, perhaps, Casey. Is there going to be an opportunity for sort of specialized context? Because some people are, because I think a lot of people, I mean, this is an example of working with churches, but I think that you're looking for ones that are you looking for specific examples or ones that are only more generalizable, or are you looking for both?
Oh, we're looking for both. Casey, I don't know if you want to weigh in here, but we really want to create this compendium of resources that could be used in a variety of settings, faith-based settings, workplace settings. I reached out to a colleague today and mentioned that we were low on resources that would engage adults in workplace settings. So really, it's those specialized areas are absolutely welcome, and we urge you to think about submitting your resources that have either a specific, very specific population or a very specific setting where you're having some success.
Right, and I think Bonnie is pointing out how that reading that, even if you're working with a different group, still can be helpful for people that are developing their prevention programs. So let's ask a question of the audience here. What pieces of prevention science and prevention concepts do you find helpful in doing your prevention work? And so we'd like to just hear from the audience, because we know that you have a lot of insights. What pieces of prevention science and prevention concepts have you found helpful in the work that you do? Right now, Lorian shared the spectrum of prevention, the socio-ecological model that was done in as a sort of a target, nested circles. What are some other pieces that people have found very helpful that you use of concepts and that we can be able to move forward? Molly talks about using community assessments, and Kathleen talks about using positive youth development work, and there's a lot of great resources around youth development work. And these are things that we'd love to see how people have applied this to domestic violence prevention work and be part of this effort here. And so what else are there other prevention science, prevention concepts have you found very helpful in what we're doing? Debbie Tucker talks about looking at some of the work that comes out of the Department of Defense Task Force on Domestic Violence, and Christina talks about community-based participatory research and using evidence-based strategies to test strategies for it. And Liz talks about evaluation tools and community mobilization strategies and bystander campaigns. And we've got, people keep on writing in. ACEs. Jonathan talks about using ACEs, which is really, if you're not familiar with ACEs, I would recommend just going to aces.org, and that's the adverse childhood experiences and how that can inform this. I see many people writing bystander and talking about doing that. Mostly talks about comprehensive prevention in the community. Some people have, so people are continuing to write in a lot of these different ideas, and great to be able to see so much that people are doing. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for that. Helpful. And Lorian, I think that these are concepts that you're trying to be able to find ways to apply in the examples in the toolkit, right?
Absolutely. As Casey mentioned, we really have some guidelines for use that come directly from the people who have designed the programming, with ideas for adaptation, ideas for how to get buy-in or making the case. So absolutely, submit your material, and if we need to have a conversation about it, we will, but all are welcome.
Great, and I love the examples that people are putting in, and I hope this is great, and I think it'll be helpful for all of us. So with this, I want to hand the podium over to Annika Gifford, who is also with the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. Annika, you're going to talk about this really exciting project that you've been working on, the Domestic Violence Evidence Project.
Thanks, David. So I just want to thank everyone and send greetings from Minnesota. My name is Annika Gifford, and I'm the Senior Director of Policy and Research with the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. And just wanted to give you a brief overview about a project that we manage at the National Resource Center called the Domestic Violence Evidence Project, and really just to underscore how complementary this is with PreventIPV. So just as a little background, the project began a couple of years ago and was really designed to help folks like you from different community-based programs, local domestic violence or sexual violence programs, coalitions, our researchers, and really the full spectrum of our allies and partners respond better, if you will, to what we've been hearing as the growing emphasis and pressure on really identifying and integrating evidence-based practice in our work. So the DV Evidence Project tries to answer 3 questions. Why do we do what we do? How do we know we're making a difference? And what are we learning about from innovative community approaches? And so this effort is really to help us build a more robust body of evidence for our work, as well as help continue to emphasize what we can learn or expand our thinking and learning from our colleagues around the country. So what we wanted to share is just the website in general, so hopefully folks will check it out, and if you haven't already, the website is up. And so what we've done so far is organized content under key services to adult victims, so that was our first focus area. And within that focus area, there's content that includes a conceptual framework and a theory of change, to really help give all of us some more common language and understanding and really contextualize our work. And so we offer that again as something for folks to see and potentially adapt. We also have research summaries, so helping to answer the question, how do we know we're making a difference? And these research summaries really look at the empirical evidence that's out there and summarizes it in a more accessible format. And we hope that folks can use the research summaries to lift language to include in your funding proposals, or talk to policymakers, again, with confidence that you have the most current and credible research on a specific topic. And then we also have what we call program and practice profiles, which really help us, I think, understand more what our colleagues are doing across the country and continue to enhance our learning. So David, could you please go to the next slide? So there's a little bit of lag for me, but there we go. So we're super excited that our website is going to relaunch soon with our new jazzy look. So if you've been on our current website, it's a little bland, and that was for a reason. So this is a screenshot of what's to come. So we'll be launching our new website and our IPV prevention focus area in a few weeks. And so this, again, the screenshot just gives you an example of what's to come. So the content will stay the same. It'll just have a more contemporary style and include some more interactive and intuitive features. So just for you all to know, so David, could you go to the next slide, please? So each of the focus areas, and this will be the case for the IPV prevention focus area, includes, again, content under these 3 questions. And given the audience and the topic that we're talking about, we're really excited that there'll be a conceptual framework and theory of change around IPV prevention. And also we'll be doing a series of research summaries. So again, folks shared in the chat earlier, so relevant to some of what you've shared, teen dating violence, bystander-focused prevention, as well as a research summary around rethinking or shifting norms around masculinity. So there'll be about 6 research summaries related to prevention. And then we'll also be highlighting 11 prevention program and practice profiles. So, Casey and Lorianne talked about PreventIPV in the tools inventory. So just a little distinction that the tools inventory focuses on tools, and under the DV Evidence project, our program and practice profiles really look at the program as a whole. So give a little bit more history, go into more depth about the program components, and also have some demonstrated evaluation or evidence behind their work. And we're thrilled to have 11 of those ready for launch soon, and even more ecstatic that we have 2 of our programs who are featured on the DV Evidence here to talk more about their work. So I'll just briefly mention that Stephanie Trilling from the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center is going to talk about the Be Safe initiative and collaboration. And then we're also happy that our neighbors to the north, Shanna Burns and Katie Brooks from CAMH CPS in London, Ontario, are going to talk about the fourth R, which if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. So again, just really want to thank you all for the opportunity to share a bit about the DV Evidence Project, and stay tuned for our new website launch and the prevention focus area launch.
Well, thank you. Annika, I am really looking forward to this, and I think that for us who are been doing prevention work, we see the value of looking at evidence and how we use evidence, and I think it's a great compliment that the Evidence Project is going to give them more in-depth about the programmatic, and then because we're still in that evidence building stage, we're going to get to share all the tools on IPV, PreventIPV. So I think between the two of them, there's and then places like Prevent Connect and other resources on VAWNet and the National Sexual Violence Resource Center and other programs out there, we're able to help flesh out the discussion and think about how we can use all these resources.
Thanks, David.
So let's move to a question of the audience, and what I want to do is get a sense of what type of evidence do you use to inform your prevention work? We know that you're doing work out here, and so if you can give us a sense of what type of evidence you find to be helpful as you do your prevention work. And so, some of them are going to be the research studies in the peer-reviewed journals, but I think we look at evidence, that's one form and an important form, but not necessarily the only form. So Sarah talks about surveying the population and being able to do that, and getting information from different coalitions. Molly gave an example of a coalition here. What type of evidence do you do? Liz talks about using focus groups as a way to get information, and Rami talks about community surveys and direct feedback from the community, so we can be asking questions there. Susan talks about the youth risk behavior surveys, and we just saw those new findings just get released about a week ago. Child welfare stats, attitudes and knowledge assessments, feedback from our clients, pre and post tests from students, the YRBS, and talks about also over at the University of Kentucky some of their Green Dot, that there's soon to be the University of Kentucky Green Dot CDC evaluation coming out soon. And so these are some great examples, teacher evaluations of programs and key informant interviews and connections with local colleges and some capstone projects. So great, thank you for sharing that. Annika, you wrote in already, wow, excellent pieces. So we can see a wide range of places that people are looking.
I know, I just geeked out. Thanks.
That's great. Well, I'm really glad, Annika, you mentioned two of the programs, and we're going to get some time to share some of the resources from several programs that are going to be featured in the DV Evidence Project, and I assume also will be featured on PreventIPV. And so we're going to talk about, the first one we're going to talk about is Be Safe, and this is from Steph Trilling, and we have Steph Trilling from the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center who's going to be talking about Be Safe. So how you doing, Steph?
Hi there. Hey, David. Hi, everyone.
Great. So we're looking forward to having you sharing about the work that you're doing here, and we have lots of links so people can get more information, and I put all the links also, a lot of these links they put onto Prevent Connect already. But why don't you go ahead and talk about what Be Safe is?
Great.
And what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm so excited to be on the webinar today. I am one of those people that has been on these webinars before, and it's really exciting to be in the back on the other side of it, seeing how it gets done. I'm excited to talk to you about Be Safe. I guess I'll take it from the perspective, I've been working at the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center for a number of years as the youth person, and as such, I would go into schools and community-based organizations and say, I can talk to your young people about rape and consent and healthy relationships. And what was really nice when I started working on Be Safe was that it helped us break into more schools and organizations, because we weren't just focused on sexual violence, rather on multiple health issues that had similar underlying causes and actually similar responses that we wanted people who were the supports in young people's lives to be able to take. And so I have a little calendar here, because I get called to go in on a Monday to talk about sexual assault, and then maybe Tuesday they talk about marijuana, and Wednesday they talk about suicide prevention. But in fact, what we know is that that's not how it works, that young people live really full lives that are full of risk factors, but also protective factors. So you can go to the next slide, David. So the goal with this project, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how it came to be and sort of what the different elements of it are. But our goal is really to increase the skills and knowledge of adults who work with young people around all of these issues, because we know that they're very connected to one another. And not only that, we want to improve the climate policies and procedures of organizations in order to support not only the young people, but also the staff who are supporting those young people. And so when we think back to that spectrum of prevention that we saw earlier, this is really not working directly with the young people on the individual skills and knowledge that they need, although we do that at the Rape Crisis Center and we have programs for that. The Be Safe program is really focusing on educating providers, building the skills and knowledge of the adults who are the supports in young people's lives, fostering coalition and networks, and changing organizational practices with a lot of technical assistance around policies and procedures. And I always get a question about who are youth workers. And youth workers, really we take, in Boston, we have a number of amazing youth serving organizations and programs for youth that are out of school time programs. And so that's, someone was talking about churches before, so it could be ministers and pastors as well as coaches, tutors, mentors, social workers, nurses, anyone who's in a program that's really designed to serve young people. You can go to the next slide. So we have a number of activities under the Be Safe initiative. One is that we have our partner groups. I'm going to talk more about the collaboration, which is sort of what allows us to say that we can talk to people about not just sexual violence, but also sexual health and mental health. So we have our partner group. We do a number of trainings for these youth-serving organizations, professional trainings for them. We do policy trainings and technical assistance to the leadership of youth programs. And we have our youth leadership board, who is really important to us because one of our main sort of concepts or ideas is that positive youth development that someone had written to the chat before, is that we want young people to develop those leadership skills and to really guide us and tell us what it is that they need to feel safe in their youth programs. And then finally our evaluation piece, and I'm not going to bore you too much with the evaluation details, but a little bit about what we found when we evaluated this program. You can go to the next slide. So Be Safe wouldn't be Safe without our number of collaborators. Right now it looks a little different than it did when we first started, but we're really fortunate to plan this work and implement this work with Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts, with Bagley, which is a youth-serving organization in Boston for LGBTQ young people. The Institute of Health and Recovery, they work on substance use and abuse in young people and provide services as well as education, prevention, and outreach. Health Resources in Action. So this is a program in Boston and Massachusetts that trains youth workers on positive youth development. And then the Boston Area Rape Crisis Center, which is where we're hosting the program right now. And so the first thing I want to talk about with Be Safe, because I think this is one of the more interesting parts of the collaboration, is sort of like how we were able to do this. We've been working together now for about 8 years since it first started, and working on really different issues. We have very different missions and goals and values to some extent. So how we've been able to come together and actually facilitate trainings together, develop curriculum together, assist one another in fundraising efforts, and really be internal advocates at each of our programs, so that what we learn in our partner meetings gets to go back to Planned Parenthood or back to the Rape Crisis Center to help us make sure that our programming takes into consideration a lot of the different learning that we get to learn from. So the next piece is just a little bit about collaboration. We started with, we all want the same thing for young people. We want healthy, happy young people with positive outcomes. And what we learned when we first started collaborating, if you go to the next slide, David, is that we had really different ways of getting there. So I love this picture of this lady wearing a condom over herself at some AIDS walk and the smashed up car, particularly as the Rape Crisis Center and as someone who works in sexual violence prevention. When we started partnering with folks who are doing substance abuse prevention, the messaging did become a little tricky because a lot of the programs that go into the schools or into youth organizations to talk about substances are saying things like, you're at risk for XYZ if you drink alcohol. And many of them were talking about sexual assault as a risk after drinking, whereas we all try really hard to make the connection that it's not the fault of the person drinking, it's never the victim's fault, it's never the survivor's fault, and in fact, how is alcohol being used to camouflage inappropriate behaviors by perpetrators? So through our conversations and through our sort of collaboration, we were able to get to the same page about what language we use and what are our goals, what are our shared goals for young people. The next part I wanted to talk about was that where we were able to get to is sort of this common ground that what we want for all young people is access to caring adults who are non-judgmental, who are trauma-informed, and who know the resources. And when Be Safe first came together, we did a lot of focus groups with the community. We talked to youth-serving organizations, we talked to young people, and we talked to service providers to find out what the need was. And this is what we heard over and over again, is that we don't know what to say when young people bring these issues to us. Like, I'm a soccer coach, I'm a GED tutor, and we don't know who to trust in terms of resources. Can you tell us what are the trusted resources in our community so that we can support our young people? And finally, that positive youth development is that all of these youth programs are working to build assets in young people, leadership skills, academic achievement, social skills, and so really believing that the more assets young people have, the less likely they will experience some of these negative health outcomes that we're looking at. And so this led to a training, and so what you're seeing now is one of the points of evaluation, although we had a number of questions we were asking, and this was really my favorite statistic. So knowing about these issues is an important part of my role as a youth worker. So this was pre-post test data, and before the training, we had a little over 20% saying, yeah, this is important to my role as a youth worker in the lives of these young people. And after the training, you can see that we're almost up to 60%. So really shifting these adults' beliefs that in order to do my job, I need to understand this stuff. If I'm going to really be the best youth worker I can be, I need to know how to deal with these issues. And so you can see our full evaluation report online. And you can also get a copy of our curriculum that we use in schools and organizations online. I think that a little screen will pop up saying that you need to send me your email address, and then I actually email it to you. But if you want the actual curriculum that we use to look at and see how you could really take it and use it with your organizations, please feel free to use that form on the website, and I'd be happy to send it to you. There's no cost for that. Apart from the training, so one of the things that we really wanted to do with Be Safe is create change that's sustainable and that's really systemic. And so youth workers tend to have a lot of turnover, and youth-serving organizations tend to not necessarily know how to support the people on the ground doing the work. So we would do these trainings, and staff would say, you're telling me that if I'm worried about the safety of a young person, I should intervene in this way, but my supervisor is actually telling me I should do it this way. What do I do? And so there was a real need for training of supervisors and administration, and for getting them to write some policies down. In Massachusetts, they don't really, it's a non-regulated if you're working with young people over the age of 12. And so unlike daycare centers that have a lot of policies, a lot of these youth organizations really didn't have much to go from. And so we spent a lot of time actually helping people write policies. And so if you go to the next slide, David, you'll see just a screenshot of our website. We tried to do this sort of tool that's online that youth organizations can use, or you can use with your partner organizations. That's got sample policies, as well as just sort of running through how people can create policies that will work for their organizations. So things with this will come up like, should my staff be allowed to use Facebook? How do we implement a dress code policy that's fair to young people of all genders, that's not contributing to victim blaming? So really seeing a lot of organizational level changes to support cultures that are safer, that allow young people to bring their full selves to programs. So I tried to make it real short and condense everything down for you all. The last slide is just lessons learned from this project, from this program. The collaboration has been key. It takes time and money, and we do have resources, again, on the website if you're interested in starting your own collaboration and you really need your partner agencies to do the work with you. And we have been fortunate enough to have funders that supported the collaboration aspect, so we've been able to pay our partner agencies for their attendance and their participation. Positive youth development has been a framework that has really, really helped with our sort of target audience, which is youth-serving organizations, and that it's not only something that they're using to better work with youth, but that intimate partner violence and sexual violence agencies that we can really use to help become better resources for young people and survivors, and as a prevention resource. And that training is not enough, that you can go in and do the training, but because of turnover and because you might not be training at the right level, doing the policy work is really, really important. So those are just some of the key things that I wanted you to get out of this presentation today. And I think there might be a question for you on the next slide.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And Lorian, you made a really good point. Lorian, can you just sort of talk a little bit about how Be Safe breaks sort of the silo of being a domestic violence prevention or sexual violence prevention, but becomes sort of a broad-based prevention?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that when I talk to my colleagues around the country and I hear about the resistance that school districts are still having to dating violence or sexual violence programming in their schools, I think this approach helps us to kind of get in the door, because it leverages this notion of overall wellness. It's positive youth development in lots of areas of focus, affecting the overall wellness and success of adolescents. And it's a nice approach when you've got a school saying, well, you don't need to come here and talk about dating violence because they're not dating yet. Or some of the other readiness or capacity issues that we find with school districts. So I'm interested in learning about all the different ways that people are getting in the door to resistant schools. But this occurs to me. Be Safe seems to me a way to do that.
Well, thank you. And let's move, Lauren, to a question. One of the things that I'm impressed with is that you're also thinking about policies. And Steph, I really like that there's a way that you're using policies to advance the work. And so I'd love to hear from the audience. What are some of the strategies that people have been able to use to promote policies to prevent domestic violence in youth-serving organizations? And let's not just make it domestic violence or sexual violence, and love to hear how people are doing it. Bonnie talks about how, churches are often resistant, so having a positive overall development can be able to work well. So I'd love to just hear how people have been able to advance policies, because we know that doing this work can't be done just by classroom presentations, and in fact we're often not going to be able to do that, but we can still make some changes. So I'd love to hear, what strategies have you used to promote policies to prevent domestic violence or other forms of violence in youth-serving organizations? So parent-teacher letters to introduce curricula, Molly talks about. So collaborating with youth service agencies to develop and implement respectful promotion policies. So Colleen, that's really, and I bet people are going to want to hear more about the work that you're doing in Indiana to try to be able to do that. And its key is to show that the results are relevant to their population, and I think it's also about being relevant to the mission of what they're trying to do. And so that we need to be able to do that, and that we need to engage school district leaders and decision makers and think about how they can be involved. And sometimes we might be not leading with our domestic violence hat, but leading with our student development hat, and then we know we can help here. And so great to be able to see all these wonderful examples. Well, we have another example that we have, and I want to get to this example. Up from we have Shauna Burns and Katie Brooks from the CAMH Center for Prevention Science up in Canada, and they're going to be talking about 4THAR, a school-based program to prevent adolescent violence and related risk behaviors. And I know I at Prevent Connected an interview many years ago with David Wolf about 4THAR as the first studies had come out, and love to just hear more of you talking about this work. So I'm going to hand it to you, Katie and Shauna, as we talk about 4THAR.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. We're very pleased to be included in the webinar today and asked to share what the fourth R. So the fourth R stands for relationships, and all of our programming addresses the risk behaviors in the context of relationships. All too often we see pictures like the one on the left happening in our schools and communities, and that's an example there of an unhealthy relationship. And we'd like to see a shift to more like the picture on the right, which features students at a conference coming up with safe schools prevention initiatives for their schools. So we want to move from those pictures of unhealthy relationships towards the pictures of healthy relationships.
So 4THARs, and it is a really clever name that you have, and so I think as many of us are familiar with the 3 R's, reading,
right,
writing, arithmetic, and so what you're doing is you're thinking about this a little different, adding more to it.
Exactly. So why did we call it the fourth R? Most people do know the first 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So we have gone ahead and added a fourth R, which will feature on the next slide here, and that is relationships. So we really believe strongly that positive, healthy relationships can be taught in much the same way as other skills are taught in school. So just as a coach practices drills before a big game situation, we believe that practicing skills before peer pressure or stressful situations for youth helps enable them to make positive choices that are best for them, because we all know that youth and adolescence can be a really trying time with a lot of peer pressure and stressful situations that come up. So we're just trying to give youth the skills to handle those situations. So next slide would be great. So what is the fourth R? It's a comprehensive, evaluated, relationship-based approach to prevent adolescent violence and related risk behaviors. So our curriculum focuses on safety and injury prevention, substance use, addictions and related behaviors, growth and development, and healthy eating. Just a bit of background that the fourth R began as a research project with our local Thames Valley District School Board here in London. We had a randomized control trial conducted between 2004 and 2006, where 23 schools participated in the study. To date, the program is in over 4,500 schools across North America and potentially reaches hundreds of thousands of students and youth each year, which we are very excited about. Now, we'll get into a little bit later here, but various components have been adapted and translated to suit the needs of various communities and populations with whom we work and who have shown an interest in our curriculum.
So on the next slide, you'll see the relationship connection, and this is, we just believe in the centrality of relationships to youth, and they're kind of all the issues that youth face. So there's a Venn diagram on the next slide that we'll go to. Are happening in the context of relationships, and when we see these emerging risk behaviors. So this diagram shows the overlap among violence, sexual behavior, and substance use, all of which are rooted in relationships. You're not violent alone, you're not engaging in sexual behavior alone, and for bigger problems like alcoholism and drug use, you might be doing it alone, but you didn't start doing it alone. They are all rooted in relationships. So this overlap is demonstrated in several ways. So thinking of the idea of comorbidity, youth having problems with one of these behaviors are probably more likely to have problems with another behavior. For example, girls experiencing dating violence are sometimes more likely to be using alcohol compared to those not involved with dating violence. And boys, the risk is even higher. Teens that use alcohol and drugs are likely to be having sexual intercourse at an earlier age. They might have more sexual partners, greater risk for STDs, STIs. High-risk alcohol users have more dating problems, fighting and peer trouble, as well as trouble with school compared to low-risk users. These areas are also linked by risk factors, many of which are related to early relationship experiences such as child maltreatment or exposure to domestic violence, both of which can have some significant effects on relationships. And finally, these other risk behaviors tend to occur within peer or dating relationships. So that's kind of the foundation, the relationship connection and adolescent risk behaviors. On the next slide, what do we want to focus on? And that's on positive youth development. So we kind of want to have a shift from emphasizing teens as merely their problems to looking at a holistic way that talks about their strengths and their assets. Positive youth development approach. The 4th R, we try and focus on going beyond avoiding the bad to building the positive. We don't just want teens to be nonviolent. We want them to have healthy relationships, have a sense of bystander responsibility for getting involved in situations where others are being victimized. And because the 4th R is a universal intervention, all youth receive the program, and we don't think it's just designed for one person or a group of students or youth. We feel that even youth not currently involved in violence or other risk behaviors can still receive many benefits from the 4th R, such as developing resilience for future conflict, learning information or skills that will help them help others. And another benefit of a universal intervention approach compared to, say, a targeted approach, for example, is that there's no stigma for those involved. Everyone's getting it. It isn't just like, oh, you have to go to 4th R and you don't. And lastly, the 4th R also focuses on the role of bystanders and preventing violence and other risk behaviors. So when we look at the next slide, our focus is on skill development. So you'll see that, focusing on helping youth keep themselves safe in potentially dangerous situations is an important feature. In a harm reduction approach, we recognize that completely abstaining from any or all behavior is unrealistic, and experimentation is normal. So, criminalization hasn't been a successful strategy and kind of drives these behaviors underground. So as children grow up, they're given so many different messages about safety. Children are told not to talk to strangers. But as they grow into young adults, we want to continue to provide them with safety messages. We certainly want our children and students to say no to drugs and other high-risk behaviors, but we need to give them, the students than just telling them the skills than just telling them to say no. In our research, it does definitely show that, a lot of youth will yield to pressure. They'll say no the first time, and when they're pressured again, they immediately say yes. So giving them strategies like delay and negotiation skills, instead of if they say no and somebody comes back at them with more pressure, they say, I just got to go to the washroom. I'll be right back in 5 minutes. Buys them some time to be able to come up with what they really do want to do. And lastly, hundreds of millions of dollars, are spent on different campaigns and things like that on telling kids what to do and what not to do, but we want to give them, the skills so that they're able to kind of make the decisions that are best for them.
Perfect. So quickly, we just wanted to go to the next slide and just kind of share some of the programs that we have developed. First of all, we have grade 7 to 9 health education and grade 9 to 12 English. Our health and English education programs are linked to the teaching standards and curriculum expectations, and they're taught in the classroom, so they fulfill those expectations for teachers. So they're not really an add-on program. They're kind of seen to, fulfill a unit of study in that particular area of teaching. They're between 21 and 28 lessons, so it's not just a one-day thing. It's kind of an ongoing, and each lesson is roughly 45 to 75 minutes in length, depending on the program and grade. The programs, again, focus on personal safety, healthy sexuality, substance use, and healthy eating. Next, the Healthy Relationships Plus small group program is run with small groups of students, generally ages 12 to 18, and can be run in or outside of school. It's 16 sessions long and focuses on prevention, mental health, substance use, suicide prevention, and a host of other topics as well, just to, again, get our youth thinking about healthy relationships and dealing with peer pressure and how you go through adolescence, being as safe as you can and as prepared as you can for things that are going to face you. We also have developed some Uniting Our Nations Aboriginal programs for our First Nations population up here. Specifically in our area, we have a lot of reservations with First Nations students, so we've got a lot of great healthy relationship programming for them, and we've also made adaptations for alternative education schools
and Catholic schools, and particularly since probably a lot of the audience here is from the United States, we have done a lot of work with various states. Particularly, we've done a lot of work with Alaska, and we've done a lot of adaptations with them. So we always seek to, make sure the program is relevant to everyone who is using it.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. And 4th-R is to me, it speaks to a framing change, because it's not about an add-on of program, but really just it's making it the curriculum and giving the lens of relationships. And though I imagine to implement it takes, it's not about just getting one teacher's buy-in. You got to think about working with the whole school system, right? Oh. Are you there?
Sorry, it got cut off there.
As Danielle said, 20 to 28 sessions are great. How are you able to get the schools on board? And I think a lot of it, is that you're working with the school system to talk about this is the curriculum as opposed to becoming an add-on. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Definitely. As a teacher myself, basically the program fulfills a lot of the expectations that you might have from your district or your ministry. So here in Ontario, we have actual curriculum expectations in health and that we have to fulfill, and this meets, I'd say, 95% of them. So teaching this program, even though it's 21 to 28 lessons, fulfills every single expectation that I have to teach for that grade. So, and it's all done for you. All the all the materials are provided for you and everything. So it really does. We get buy-in very quickly from schools and boards, especially from teachers who already have enough on their plate to do, and this is just kind of something that they can work on. It's evaluated, but it's already something that matches their expectations or learning standards.
So great. And then, who delivers the 4th-R? The teacher.
Yeah, there's classroom-based programs, so the teachers would deliver that, but there's also the Healthy Relationships Plus program. Can be delivered by anybody, basically. It can be delivered in community settings. It can be delivered by teachers if they want to. It does match expectations as well, or learning standards. But for the most part, our Healthy Relationships Plus program can be delivered by pretty much anybody.
Great.
That's what
And
I guess.
great. I know that Alaska, and Maureen was checking, if there's anyone here who has experience of how you've customized the work, we'd love to hear from you. So is there anyone on the line? I'm not able to see the pictures, so Ashley, if there's anyone raising their hand, or if you know someone's name that you can call on, we'll try to do that. But I'm sharing my slides, so I can't do that. And someone, Linda asks, are the 21 to 28 sessions a year, or are they over the span of several grades over several years?
That would be per year. The 28, so there's 21 lessons in what we call our 9th grade program or grade 9 program. So those are about 75 minutes in length. And then there's 28 in our 7th grade program, they're about 45 minutes in length. But there's things you can add on to, there's things you can cut, depending on what you need to do in the class.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think the 4th-R really is one that has shown with the research base and with the people's experiences that really speaks to making some systematic changes. And what I like is how people have been able to adapt that program. And so I'd love to hear, one of the pieces that's important is to realize that we can't just rely on a program in the box, but we have to really be very careful about how we adapt it while preserving the integrity of the program. And so I'd love to hear from the audience a little bit of what are your experiences and what are the key elements of how you adapt prevention programs. So we'd love to hear from you all of what you're able to do. Back to Shana and Katie, can this be adapted for young adults out of high school or college? And then do kids get 4th-R more than 1 year? Are more questions that are coming to 4th-R. So as people are writing in elements to adapting, why don't you two a little bit of that?
Sure. So we have had the program adapted for young adults or for youth out of high school or college. We've also adapted the programs for kids that are more at risk, so in an alternative education setting. Maybe they've been suspended or expelled from mainstream schooling and they're in kind of a temporary school situation. The program's been adapted for students in those settings, youth in those settings. So we do find that it is all in the way that it's delivered. It's a lot of small groups kind of activities, so the youth in the group kind of generate the discussion and the topic a little bit themselves. So when you have an older group, I've done it with a group of 18-year-olds, and it went just as well as doing it with a group of 12 and 13-year-olds, for example. The other question
was, is it only 1 year, or is this something that goes throughout their schooling career?
So the funding we've received over the years, we're a nonprofit, so we've received funding, and now we have programming designed for students from grade 7 all the way through to grade 12. So they could do it every single year depending on the schools and the boards and or the districts and what they choose to implement. In Alaska, for example, they have it in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade right now. So they're doing it 3 years in a row there. And then they're considering doing the Healthy Relationships Plus small group in their 10th grade classrooms. So they'd have it for 4 years.
Right, and someone already asked, and I think you already answered this question, is can it be adapted for foster care children exist with higher need of risk and learned behaviors? And you said you have developed this for more what have been labeled at-risk, more at-risk populations, right?
Right, exactly. But all of our programming is more universal, so it does need to be adapted, if anything, because it kind of is geared towards anybody.
Now, Rami asked a great question, and it's about who do you partner with in doing this, because this is in some ways for people in working with school systems, and I want to get to how you sell it, but it also is a little bit about who are those partners and how you're able to incorporate all of these different concepts together in building that together. So what are some of as you're developing a way to bring this forward into a community, who are those people that would be helpful to be involved?
Truthfully, it's different in every situation. A lot of our success so far has been word of mouth. Some people will get a grant and they'll implement it in their community. Sometimes it's been, in Canada, the government of the Northwest Territories and the government of Alberta, like a province and a territory in Canada, came forward and said that they wanted to have it in all their schools. We've had groups in the United States. We're part of a grant where 5 different sites in the U.S. implemented the program, and it was all funded through this grant. It's all been kind of different along the way.
So it sounds like you need to no surprise, I think the lesson is. You have to figure out a way that meets the needs of your community and finds the people that are the right people for where you're doing it. That makes sense. Lorian said, what are some of the talking points of trying to get schools to think comprehensive programming is necessary and effective? And there's then I'll get to the next questions there. People are writing in lots of questions, so I'm trying to get there.
Basically, anytime we do a presentation, we do get fairly quick buy-in because healthy relationships is such an important topic, and when it comes to working with schools, the fact that it has been linked to learning standards for teachers, it makes it something that is a lot, not easier to implement, but maybe more, you can gain buy-in a lot faster. People really do feel strongly that it's because it's evidence-based, it's something that works, so they're willing to kind of think more about it and figure out how to include it in their schools or communities.
Have you seen any difference in Canada and the United States? Because with the local control, and I'm not as familiar with schools in Canada as I am in the United States, but with local control, you have one domestic violence agency might have 5 different school systems or 10 different school systems they're dealing with. So it's harder to do that. Any difference that you've seen I presumably you've adopted more in Canada than the United States so far, but any differences you've seen?
Actually, not too many differences, to be honest. We have agencies that do work with a number of school divisions, and then people in the agency or a teacher in the school division will become a master trainer, so then they're able to kind of train the people in their community. It tends to be something that once someone's implemented it, the word of mouth spreads and people are more interested in it, I guess, because once you actually have your hand, it sounds like a lot at first, 21, 28 lessons, but once you have your hand on the document and you see that it's something that is actually quite easy to implement, and although everything's provided for you and it does meet your learning standards, it's kind of like you can count that section of your education for the year already planned for and prepared.
Great. Well, we need to get going as we're nearing the end. But you did answer the question about It sounds like you do some train the trainers to be able to get that involved. So it's not just your staff doing the training. Is that right? And and is there a fee to purchase the curriculum? I know Ashley put up, and I'll put a link to the website where you can get information on how to get this. So there is a fee for purchasing the curriculum. Is that right?
There is, and we now have it available online, so you can just download or you can print a copy, and you can take online training too, which comes free of charge if you purchase the program.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And people were getting all those things. I really appreciate you sharing, and it was great information. We're going on. And I want to now just sort of move to the audience as we're getting near the end and think about sort of last, for people, I'd like to hear from you all, based on today's presentation, what are your next steps? What are the things that, based on what you thought about today, what's the next thing that you're going to be doing? I'm assuming that at least about 60% of you are going to go to PreventIPV if you haven't already, but I'd love to just hear what other people are planning on doing next. So go ahead and share that in the text chat. I'd love to hear that. And I'd like to get some last words as we think about all of the different presenters that we had today and the information that's available, that we can be able to think about all of this here. So I'm hoping that we can see that. So any last words? I'm just going to go through each of you and ask for any last words. Deb, as you think about this, actually I'll go a little bit backwards. Here, Shana and Katie, from this, any last advice you want to give as people think about the fourth R? Quickly?
Nope, that's pretty much everything we have to offer today.
Okay, great. And then Steph, as we think about Be Safe, any last words that you want to give for people, not necessarily about this installing Be Safe itself, but the lessons that you have learned that you would encourage people to think about?
No, I'm excited. I just sent a message. I've been getting lots of emails, so I hope everyone forgives me if it takes me a couple of days to send the curriculum to you, but I'll send it out. I'm excited that people want to use it.
Okay, and it appears that the technology is one of these fun days, so it looks like we just lost the chat, but we'll keep on
getting. It's coming and going.
It's coming and going. So, Lorian, last words as you think about the work that you've been doing.
Well, I just want to encourage everybody to visit the PreventIPV website and look at the tools inventory, and please submit your wonderful resources. We really want to see that become, a growing and vibrant compendium of all of the wonderful things that people are doing out there. I also want to say, I think that Deb DeBear, do you have some final words about the council?
Yes, what I wanted to do is just put in another plug to make sure everyone working on the local level or on a statewide level knows that their coalition has a voice on the National Prevention Council, and we want to make sure we're hearing from the field ideas, suggestions, policy changes you'd like to see happen. We're going to be looking to try to create some major federal funding opportunities to support this work. So it's really a great structure to get involved and make sure your voice is heard.
Okay, great. And I also wanted just people for Annika to think about how we can complement with the DV Prevention Project. So Annika, a last word in last seconds.
Just much appreciation to all of you. Thank you.
And Casey, thank you so much for sharing with us and putting together this website, and thank you all for sharing it. And most of all, thank everyone who participated today for your great thoughts and vibrant thinking, and that we will continue together as a movement to be able to work towards preventing intimate partner violence, preventing sexual violence, preventing domestic violence, preventing violence in our communities, and creating healthy communities where everyone can thrive. So this will conclude today's Prevent Connect web conference. We look forward to, hope to see you in future events, and hope you continue checking out all these great resources that we had here. So speakers, please disconnect on the phone and join in on our post-conference, and thank you all. Ashley, I'm going to ask you to shut the session down. I'm going to stop the sharing now.
Okay.
We move on.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
everybody.
for hosting.